Recently, Nintendo released a concept art featuring this new type of Korok, who was also seen in the recent In This Destiny trailer. But who is this character, and what's the story behind him? As we'll see, I believe this new Korok is an elder by the name of Hestu, who will play an important role in helping Link either restore the Master Sword or retrieve his memory. Let's take a closer look. When it comes to appearance, an initial look of this new Korok gives the impression that it may be a completely different race or species from the regular Koroks, given that we can see its face and it doesn't appear to have any type of a leaf covering the face. However, a closer examination reveals that this new Korok shares many similarities with the other Koroks. For instance, both this Korok and the other Koroks have nearly identical bodies, including similar arms, legs, nose, and tail. Moreover, as we can see, this new Korok jumps up and down, which is actually similar to what the other Koroks do as well. In addition, both this new Korok and the other Koroks have nearly identical patterns on their bodies, and not surprisingly, these patterns are very similar, if not identical, to the patterns found on the Great Deku Tree, who is the guardian spirit of Forest Haven and who calls the Koroks his children. These patterns on the Koroks are also similar to the patterns found on the vines in the Forbidden Woods. Of course, there are a few differences as well. Unlike the other Koroks, which have their faces covered with leaf-like structures or masks of varying colors, shapes, and sizes, this new Korok has his face covered with what appears to be a ginkgo biloba leaf, the significance of which we'll cover later. Moreover, we can actually see a human-like face on this new Korok, something we didn't see with the other Koroks, as their faces are always covered. Another possible difference is that while the other Koroks have the ability to fly with the help of a deku leaf, it's unclear if this Korok can fly, as he doesn't have a deku leaf with him. Notably, this Korok's head appears to resemble a crown, possibly to signify his rank as the elder or leader, especially given the red hat situated on top of his head being held by a green string wrapped around the spiky vine-looking things on top of his head. Finally, this green string that appears to be holding this new Korok's hat in place appears to be the same as the green strings found in the Forbidden Woods, holding these spiky flowers, and which are also found on the doors in the Forbidden Woods as well. So why does this new Korok look different than the other Koroks? Could he have evolved from a completely different race or species? In other words, a race other than the Kokiri? For instance, isn't it possible that he may have evolved from the forest Picori, who are the Minish that live in Minish Woods in the Minish Cap? After all, there are some features that this new Korok has in common with the Picori. For instance, both this new Korok and the forest Picori live in the woods or forests. In addition, both have pointy ears and wear red hats. Interestingly, the forest Picori are not visible to the eyes of adults, and only good, well-behaved children can see them, which is oddly similar to what Link was told by the Korok in the beginning of Breath of the Wild, when the Korok asked Link how his kind, humans, could see the children of the forest. Moreover, this new Korok, as well as the other Koroks, jump up and down, which is actually similar to what the Picori do, as they also jump up and down. And as I noted, this new Korok appears to have a human-like face, similar to the Picori. Thus, it's not impossible to imagine a scenario where a Picori could evolve into a Korok, similar to how a Kokiri evolved into a Korok. After all, the Picori and Kokiri have a lot of similarities as well, as they both live in the forest, wear green garbs or tunics, and have pointy ears and pointy hats. Nevertheless, the Picori do not appear to have any type of a connection with the Great Deku Tree, which makes any potential evolution from them into this Korok unlikely, given that both the Kokiri and Koroks are clearly children of the Great Deku Tree, and in fact have great reverence for it. As such, just as with all the other Koroks, it's likely that this new Korok also evolved from the Kokiri race, given that his patterns are essentially identical to that of the other Koroks, as well as the patterns on the Great Deku Tree and the patterns found on the vines in the Forbidden Woods, which not only has Kokiri roots given the Kokiri emblem on the doors there, but is also situated adjacent to the Great Deku Tree, a tree that both the Kokiri and the Koroks revere. With that background out of the way, let's analyze what role this new Korok will play. After all, he's positioned in front of the Great Deku Tree to the right of the Master Sword and directly behind these flowers, which we know will play a significant role in the game. Well, near the beginning of the game, when Link jumps in this body of water, a Korok gets out and asks Link, "Huh? You're not Hestu?" The Korok continues, asking Link how his kind, humans, could see the children of the forest. Finally, the Korok tells Link that if he runs into Hestu, to please return the Korok seed to him. Could this new mysterious Korok be Hestu? And if he is, what would be the significance? Well, as I've covered in the prior theory video, it appears that these flowers will be key to restoring Link's memory. Could this mysterious Korok have something to do with that? After all, we are told by the Korok earlier in the game to give a Korok seed to Hestu. This new Korok may in fact be Hestu, and perhaps he will need to plant the Korok seed near the Great Deku Tree so more of these flowers can grow. In addition, given that the leaf that is on this new Korok appears to be from a ginkgo tree, and considering that the extract from a ginkgo biloba leaf has various uses in traditional medicine, including helping people with dementia, i.e. helping with the decline or loss of memory, it's possible that this Korok will use a combination of the flower and an extract from the ginkgo biloba leaf to help restore Link's memory. Perhaps connected to the Korok seeds and the Korok puzzles that we'll need to solve, there's also a picture of this tree stump with a Korok leaf stamped on top of it, and a branch and a leaf next to it. Link can place leaf stamps in an area to mark the location of a Korok he finds while exploring. Thus, the fact that we see the stump with the Korok leaf stamped on it indicates that Link found one of the Koroks, perhaps Hestu, near this stump and marked it for future reference. Interestingly, this stump is similar to the stumps that the Kokiri had in their little houses and in the forest, and we also saw stumps similar to this in the Sacred Forest Meadow where we met Saria, as well as in the Lost Woods where we met the Skull Kid. In addition, the Forbidden Woods from Wind Waker also had many of these stumps, and a Korok in Forest Haven specifically tells Link that if Link has trouble anywhere in the forest, to look for stump-shaped houses. Thus, we know for certain that these stumps in Breath of the Wild will likely mark where Koroks may be living, and they may even have something to do with all of the Korok puzzles involving the Korok seed. Alternatively, it's possible that this new Korok, as the elder of the race, could use certain abilities to restore the Master Sword, and who knows, maybe he partners up with Princess Zelda, who in the most recent trailer was seen kneeling down to observe and perhaps take these flowers. We know that at some point in the game, Princess Zelda is right next to the Great Deku Tree, and while it's difficult to know why she's there, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that she's asking the Great Deku Tree to look over the Master Sword while Link remains in a slumber for 100 years, and perhaps following Link's awakening from the Shrine of Resurrection, she partners up with this new Elder Korok to help remaster the Master Sword. For example, in the Wind Waker, the Master Sword was restored thanks to efforts by both Makar and the Spirit of Fado, when Makar, the new sage of the Wind Temple, played the Wind God's area in the presence of Fado's spirit following Link's triumph in the Wind Temple. So maybe this new Korok, who appears to be an elder given his red hat and his unique appearance that is different from all the other Koroks, will be responsible for helping restore the Master Sword, and perhaps instead of using a musical instrument as was done by Makar, he will instead use these flowers or the ginkgo leaf on him with assistance from Princess Zelda. Finally, I wanted to cover a little more on the Koroks and the Kokiri. We know that Koroks are spirits of the forest known as the little children of the woods and are washed over by the Great Deku Tree, and that once upon a time, long ago, these Koroks took on human forms, specifically the Kokiri, but when they went to live on the sea, they took these shapes. With respect to the Kokiri, they are considered the children of the forest, each with their guardian fairies, with the Great Deku Tree acting as their guardian spirit. The Kokiri race believed that they would vanish if they left the forest, and there are signs in the Kokiri forest warning them not to leave. Moreover, children who wander off and get lost in the Lost Woods turn into Skull Kids. Interestingly, in the end credits of Ocarina of Time, we can clearly see the Kokiri race celebrating with all of the other races in Lon Lon Ranch, and we can even see Mido, the moody leader of the Kokiri, sitting near King Zora, clearly outside of Kokiri Forest. Perhaps this all suggests that leaving the forest wouldn't have spelled automatic doom, but rather it was the fact that they went out into the sea where the evolution from Kokiri to Korok took place, which was necessary to ensure that the Korok could survive with their flying abilities. It's possible that this particular Korok did not evolve at the same time as all the other Koroks, and perhaps that difference in the time frame for the evolution made this particular Korok slightly different in looks. As I noted earlier, the Kokiri's emblem can be found on the doors of Forbidden Woods in the Wind Waker. This suggests that there was some sign of the Kokiri even after the events in Ocarina of Time in the adult timeline. Let's remember that the Forbidden Woods was an island in the Great Sea lying adjacent to Forest Haven, and it was once the Koroks' peaceful home, and perhaps their home likely still exists deep within the Forbidden Woods. This makes it more likely that all Koroks, including this new one, likely transformed from the Kokiri race, given the litany of connections we've seen. Well, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comments. Please don't forget to like this video and share with family and friends. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our channel, Gagz Gaming. Thank you and have a wonderful day.